Good morning. Buenos días, mi gente. ¿Cómo estamos? Very good. Happy Saturday. We are at PhillyCAM, and we are blessed to be part of this wonderful celebration, which is PPM Fest and the People's Forum today, and this is our second Dímelo. So my name is Marangeli Mejia Rabel, and I have the honor to serve as the Festival Director and Chief Curator for the Philadelphia Latino Arts and Film Festival. And PhillyCAM is one of our most wonderful collaborators, and we love and respect the work that they do and are honored to share some space with you here today. So Dímelo emerged as a space to bring together ideas. We know that there's a lot of creativity in our city and in our region, and we just wanted to open the space in a way that it's very informal and very open and very flexible, so we can showcase the diversity of ideas and concepts and projects and things that creatives are doing. We want to make sure that we celebrate them. I have the pleasure to share duties today with Kirsten Sensky, who serves as PHLAFF's senior programmer, and she is going to be leading us through the program. So thank you so much and enjoy the session.
Awesome. Well, hello again, everybody. Thank you for being here. Before we begin with our presentations, just to share, submissions for PHLAFF 2025 are open. We've just passed our early bird deadline, and our regular deadline ends on November 15th. Late deadline ends on December 15th. So if you have any films that you'd like to submit, we'd love to check them out. Please, please, please. And yeah, let's get into the presentation. So we will be beginning with Joy Marsek. Norberto Dominguez is not here right now to share his work, but we're very, very excited to begin with Joy as she shares her work.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Dímelo. How do I pronounce it? Dímelo? Dímelo. Okay, Dímelo. Look at me. Okay. My name is Joy Marsek. I am Latina. I'm a writer, director, producer. And last weekend, I actually screened my third feature film at the Santa Fe International Film Festival, which also screened at the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival and the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival. My second feature is available in the UK and the US. And I am here to pitch my fourth feature film, which is called Survival of the Holy Fool. And all of my films, there is one common theme between them, which is that there is always a character, at least one character, that is on a spiritual quest. And that is certainly true for Survival of the Holy Fool, which is a thriller. And it is about an ex-convict who is on the road to redemption, and his final test is he has to unite a politically divided neighborhood before the neighborhood erupts into a riot and the neighbors slash, tear, rip each other apart in a frenzy of terror. And I am raising $500,000 for this film to shoot in June of 2025. I will then be submitting to Tribeca in December. I do have a first look deal with a US distributor and an international sales agent. And I am currently, yes, thank you. And I am currently working to hire a casting director because my dream ex-convict would be Danny Trejo. And I think he would just be amazing. Okay, so I'm here because, like a documentary film that needs research and development money, a feature film needs development money, and so I am looking for between $35,000 and $100,000 for this first money in. I am a full-on, this is a Philadelphia homegrown project. Okay, I've been an independent filmmaker in the Philadelphia scene for the past 15 years. 2 of my stories, including this one, are all stories based in Philadelphia. I'm a member of Philadelphia Women Film in Television. I'm a member of Rough Cuts. And I love working with Philadelphia artists. And I love representing this city in a positive way. And yeah, to me, this is such an important film. You know, we have this ongoing, just extreme left, right, all of this political division, and I'm looking at, okay, but is there another answer to violence? Is there another route that we can take? And that is exactly the question that this film raises. So, yes, that's what I'm pitching. So, do you have any questions? I'm here to play the clip when you're ready, so give me the... Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and play that. And what I will say is that, so the main plot line is that you have the whole film is set in Fishtown. The neighborhood is gentrifying, and you have a local plant that has shut down, and all the old neighbors are saying, we need to reopen that plant. We need it to provide jobs again. And the new neighbors are saying, no, that plant is contaminated with lead. And so what you're about to see is a clip that's from the old neighbor's perspective, okay? So you don't have any of the gentrifiers in this clip. You have the old neighbors and why they want to reopen the plant. And then you will see a little bit of the ex-convict, the holy fool. I have reimagined the ex-convict now, so you're gonna have to imagine Danny Trejo. And yes, but I do think it's interesting to be able to look at the lead plot line. So yeah, okay.
Thank you. We'll take questions at the end.
Okay, actually, this is actually, oh no, this is it. Sorry, shoot.
Hey! Listen up! I found out that a Chinese company wants to renovate the United Metals plant and reopen it.
What do you think, Ma? You trust this?
About time we get our goddamn lives back again.
Goddamn right.
For the health of our children, this plant needs to be torn down, demolished, and cleaned up.
There is the story of the local plant that shut down 25 years ago, the organization that wants to tear it down, and the neighbors who want it to reopen so they can get their old lives back again.
I don't know anyone who's died from inhaling lead, but I do know 50 friends who can't pay their fucking bills.
And an outsider, the holy fool, a modern-day spiritual pilgrim, the neighbor's guardian angel.
After 10 months of chaos, the EPA will finally announce whether or not the plant will qualify as a Superfund site.
It's a complex weave of jobs versus the environment, the neighbor's turmoils, and the holy fool attempting to bring harmony to this chaos. It might not all make sense now, but it will be crystal clear by the end.
Do I feel it? Okay. All right. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Preguntas para Joy? Go ahead.
Oh, hi, I'm Crystal. My question is, will the Holy Fool go through their own sort of character? Like, what does that look like?
Yes. So that is. So they definitely, you find out in the beginning where you see that they were in, San Quentin, and you see the marks of their old life. And so they really are fighting this urge themselves to go back to that, to be violent, right? But they continue to walk that path of peace. Yeah, so you see him really struggling with that. And yes, so yes, to answer your question, yeah.
Any additional questions? Preguntas?
Thank you, Joy. I'm sorry, I feel like I shouldn't have questions about the main character, but I also have a question. Just remind me, and you might have said this in your opening pitch, but they are from the neighborhood originally?
No, so what I generally say is that they enter into the neighborhood, okay? That they have heard about this whole, it becomes a whole national, this controversy blows up onto a national level. And so they enter into the neighborhood with this whole idea of, okay, how can I maintain peace? How can I help this? He really is a modern day spiritual pilgrim. Okay. That is how I think about him. And I have had this thought before where I've thought, what if, when I see somebody homeless on the street or something, and I think, what if that was Jesus? And I just didn't have the ability to be able to tell, or I was too afraid, or, what would the indicators be? And yeah, that idea has just always fascinated me, that is it possible that there is a modern day Jesus walking around, but we just have so many filters and so much fear and so much cynicism about it that we're not even willing to approach that idea anymore. And so that was kind of the catalyst for the character.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Call. Any questions?
Do you have another one?
Oh, yep.
But I was just saying that we all need to post a picture and. I was just saying, take a picture, post it, and tag Danny Trejo.
I know. Well, what's cool about Danny Trejo is he actually does take on a lot of independent films. Yeah, when you look at his IMDb, he's really, and he likes to work with independent film directors. So his son is an independent film director. So I feel as if when I've spoken to a couple casting directors, they all definitely feel like this is possible for me to get him. And I just want to see Danny Trejo flying up to the sky at the end after he saved the universe, after he saved the neighborhood. But yeah, I do think it is very possible. And once I have the way that film, you guys know, like once I have Danny Trejo attached, it's going to be so much easier then for me to raise the money. Yeah. Right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Can we get a hand for Joy? Awesome. We're going to be moving on to our next group of presenters. Itzel Gonzalez is also not here with us right now, but we would love to be able to chat with you after the end of the session about some of the projects from our presenters today. So we're going to be moving on to our next group, Eric, Cesar Morales, and crew. So I'll be passing it off to them.
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. Itzel is on her way, so hopefully we'll be able to hear from her as well. Our film, let me see, Imaginary Lines. It's a collaboration production. I'm the writer, producer, and directors, editors. But I always feel weird when I say I'm the writer, because to be honest, I'm not. I'm more of a bricoleur. I'm putting things together. What happened is that we held a series of writing and art workshops with Philadelphia's Latino community, people who cross the border by foot, by car, and we together listened to how they did it, what experiences they had in Philadelphia. And we put these different stories into a narrative using the journey of the monarch butterfly from central Mexico all the way to Philadelphia. And everywhere the monarch butterfly stops, we have a vignette of one of these stories from our collaborators. And these stories are profound, they're sad, they're heartbreaking, but they're moving and they're magical. In one of the stories, our collaborator was telling us about how, while journeying across the desert with a group of other young women, okay, I'm back. Journeying across the desert at night with a group of young women and a coyote. She said that it was cold. It wasn't extremely cold, but it was cold enough that she felt the chill. And as she was walking, she looked to the side and she saw this little boy who couldn't have been older than 2 years old, completely naked. She was moved and she couldn't let him stay there. So she turned away from the woman and she went to pick up the boy. And as she turned, she felt a hand on her shoulder swinging her around. She turns and she sees the coyote holding her back and she says, "Let me go, I need to help the boy." She turns back and the boy is gone. She looks to the coyote and she says, "You saw him, right?" The coyote says, I did. That's why I held you back. These spirits, they're not here. They're not here for us. They're just letting us pass. She journeyed the rest of the night in complete silence. In the story, she holds out her hand just a little bit so that if this boy needed guidance leaving the desert, he could hold on to her. Here's the thing, that story struck me. I don't know if anybody here is a fan of Oliver Twist. I've had a dog named Oliver too. There's a scene where Charles Dickens talks about this little baby, a woman who passed away shortly after, and how up until this baby in rags, in the orphanage clothing, it could have been anybody. And I think about that 2-year-old boy sometimes, and I wonder, who would he have been? Could he have predated the borders that we created? Is he one of our sins for enforcing such a difficult space for people to cross? And he could have been anybody. And these are the types of stories that we are sharing. Currently, we amass these stories, we're animating them. We have 2 stories finished, and we're looking for funding to finish about 6 or 8 more of them as we wrap everything up. Is there anything you want to add?
So again, this is going to be a short animated film that we are using based off a series of workshops that we've held over the past few years. Hi, I'm Nadia Hiranaka, and
hey, Matthew Sulub.
And so working with Eric. And so amongst these workshops, we've been collecting stories, we've been rewriting all of this, and working together to create a kind of a series of vignettes. Right now we have, in November, we'll have the first 3 completed. What you're going to see today is just the very intro. So again, using the metaphor of the monarch's journey from Mexico up to the States. You're just going to see that little intro, and then the first 2 stories from some of our participants will be done in November, and we invite everybody to a little preview to see those 2 stories on Saturday, November 23rd at Fleischer Art Memorial, the Sanctuary. Come, there'll be music, there'll be food, and you'll get to see a longer version of what we're going to just show you right now. So there's just a little hint of what is to come. And then we'll talk about our feedback right after we show you the video. So go ahead. It's on the desktop. If we could get lights.
Las crisálidas de las mariposas monarca comienzan como jade. Un tono verde azulado que parece reflejar las hojas a las que se aferran y el cielo que cuelga sobre ellas. Manchas doradas forman la corona en las puntas de las crisálidas. Nuestra historia comienza aquí, en este valle, donde la fuerza del sol de la mañana se asoma a través del follaje y la maleza, tocando un mar de crisálidas, haciendo que las motas doradas brillen y las mariposas que se encuentran en su interior se despierten. Con sus vibrantes alas de color naranja cítrico y negro iridescente que se confunde con azul, los viajes de las monarcas son parte de leyendas, cuentos populares y mitos. Las monarcas que viajan a través de un continente durante un mes, deslizándose sobre corrientes de viento, son las que capturan nuestra imaginación, pero son las últimas de muchas generaciones, todas las cuales comienzan en este valle.
And that's just a real work in progress, just to qualify that.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you for your lovely presentation. We have room for one question, una pregunta. Okay, we got it. Talk to us, Ali.
I'm curious, what was the outreach process like to get people to talk to you about their stories, and talk a little bit about how you got them to be comfortable to open up with such, kind of vulnerable experiences?
Actually, so I came into this project a little bit later. Nadia and Matt held the first series of outreach. Did you want to talk about that, and I could talk about the second? Oh, okay. So the main group is, honestly, I just have friends. We're working with the Philadelphia Folklore Project, but the thing is that, I do a lot of work in the community helping people, and I really care about people, and I make myself available to help people apply for grants, to help people with art projects. And so when it came time to look for people who wanted to share these stories, they know me, and they know that I care, and so that I was going to be truthful with them and try to be as respectful as possible. And honestly, it's like a lot of us have these stories of immigration, and I'm the product of immigrants. And when you connect with people on a human level, it's not hard for them to want to share.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're now going to be bouncing back to a presenter. We're going to be hearing a little bit more about Itzel Gonzalez's project, so I'd love to invite her to the front to talk a little bit about her work.
Hi, everyone. Well, some of you might know me, some of you might not. My name is Itzel Gonzalez, and I have this project called El Conejo en el Faro, which is a film club, which is something that apparently is extremely common in everywhere but the US, which consists pretty much in having conversations, having creating dialogue around an art product, which in this case is movies, only from Latin America or produced in Latin America. And so this has been an ongoing project. This is the second year. And it started pretty much in March last year. So sorry for that. I got a little bit distracted. So this project started pretty much because, again, in Latin America we have these traditions apparently that we generate conversations, and we also generate community around a form of art, in this case movies. So we gather around and we discuss movies, which seems that is something very important because through the film discussions I have noticed, but also the attendants, the people that go to these meetings, have noticed that we have a lot of common traumas thanks to the imperialism and capitalism and the US intervention in our countries. So yeah, it has been somewhat healing for us, but it also has been a way to share common experiences and very similar, well, sometimes very similar and sometimes very conflicted visions about our life experiences. So yeah, and it has been also amazing to meet people from so many different countries, not only from Latin America, a lot of people from the US, but also a lot of people from other continents. And well, this project started in a very humble space, well, not so humble at Buck, but now it's a very humble space in the community center at the Silvestre Playground. And well, things have improved, and now there is also another space at Fleischer Art Memorial. And well, I decided that it was the time to be a little bit bolder. So I also made the decision of having a course on banned movies from Latin America. So yeah, this is something that still is happening. Most of these movies have been obviously political. Most of these movies obviously reflect a lot of the, again, the intervention that the United States had, well, still has in our communities, our populations. And it has been amazing, and also it has been eye-opening, even to the people in the United States that apparently didn't know how much damage the United States has done to the world. So yeah, it has been a great experience for myself, but I think it also has been a great experience for the people that share this community space. And yeah, so if you're interested in watching banned movies, there is still 2 left from Mexico, and one obviously is a political issue related again with the imperialism, but another one is more about women having the freedom to make decisions. So if that piques your interest, you have to go to the very few screenings that are left. And I think maybe now we could have a presentation for the video that is done for the course on banned movies from Latin America. Thank you, Laura.
Gracias.
Esta cova em que estás, com palmos medida, é a conta menor que tiraste em vida. É a conta menor que tiraste em vida. É de bom tamanho, nem largo nem fundo, é a parte que te cabe deste latifúndio. É a parte que te cabe deste latifúndio. Não é cova grande, é cova medida, é a terra que querias ver dividida. É a terra que querias ver dividida. É a conta menor que tiraste em vida. É a parte que te cabe deste latifúndio. É a terra que querias ver dividida. Estarás mais ancho que estavas no mundo, mas a terra dada não se abre a boca.
Muchísimas gracias, Itzel, por tu trabajo y por compartir con nosotros. Questions for Itzel before she wraps up. Preguntas, comentarios.
Yeah, you can follow El Conejo at El Conejo en El Faro, and yeah, you can check out the next screenings. Also, we're very close to the hibernation of El Conejo. So you have pretty much like less than a month before Thanksgiving to have a look of the last movies that we have for this year.
Muy bien. Y hay algo más que tú usas para promocionar la programación, right?
Pretty much has been just like word of mouth.
Sí, pero there's something about El Conejo that you wear from time
yes,
to time.
My mask is actually like next to you in that bag. But yeah, my promotion has been more through social media and yeah, mouth to mouth, like word of mouth.
¿La paso?
A ver.
A ver.
Vamos a ver
el ridículo. Es parte de la personalidad del conejo.
Vamos a hacer el ridículo una vez más.
Muy acertado.
¡Viva el conejo!
¡Viva el conejo! Gracias, Itzel.
If you guys are interested in censorship in Latin America and how this country has affected and what we see and the way that we perceive ourselves, because that is also something important for El Conejo. It has shown to us, like, we oftentimes make a perception of ourselves based on what the US says that we have to be, and it seems like a very not accurate, an extremely not accurate point of view. We even ourselves as Latin Americans have a very cut way of perceive ourselves, because we also tend to glorify the media that is produced in the United States instead of the media that is produced by Latin American people in Latin America. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Itzel. We're now going to be moving on to our next presenter, which is Norberto Dominguez. So I'll pass the mic over to him.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do. Thank you. You can put it on the next slide now if you want. It's good to be here. And
can you use the mic?
Oh, thank you. Right. It's good to be here, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. This is about the day that a related virus is released into northeast Pennsylvania and starts to spread quickly. And it affects the language sections and areas of the brain, and is now known, and this part is actually real, a foreign language syndrome. And foreign language syndrome happens to people that have accidents, and sometimes it happens for no reason. They still don't understand how it happens and what it does, but people have been documented to begin speaking a language that they either heard in passing or that they've never heard before. They don't understand why it happens. Also what happens is a dialect is spoken that they never spoke before or haven't been too familiar with. And so this aphasia-related virus, what it does, it enhances that. And the language that it enhances in folks is Spanish. And people start speaking Spanish either gradually, involuntarily, or instantly. And it creates a tremendous panic. And yeah, maybe I should get another mic. So it creates a panic in this region, and it starts off with Spanish. It eventually develops and morphs into an aphasia-related virus that forces people to, or not forces, but involuntarily they start speaking other languages. But it begins primarily with Spanish in this area. And so it's called the Babel syndrome, and it's about a Latina doctor who is a linguistic and a neurologist that focuses, in her specialty is in aphasia and foreign language syndrome. And when this starts happening, because she's known about this, she is contacted by the White House, the federal government, to help find a cure for this. And the person that is sent to convince her to join the White House, because she's completely opposed to this White House, because it's a lot like the Trump administration. And so she doesn't want to join it, and the guy who has to convince her to join is an ex-lover of hers from college, who she's not too crazy about, because his specialty is doublespeak and how to change words and switch them up. And so it starts off, and what I'm here for is I'd like to get some actors to have a table read of the short that I'd like to produce at first, because it's a vast world, but I want to introduce it to the first 13 pages of this short on what happens on those first 48, 72 hours when in a small town right near here in Philly, people gradually start involuntarily speaking Spanish, and it hits everyone. The people that aren't affected by it are people that are bilingual or speak more than one language. But it starts hitting everyone, and there is the Latina doctor has a cousin whose name is Beba, who is like a YouTube personality, influencer, and a journalist that recently got fired. And so she's reporting on what she is seeing on the street. And so that's what these first 13 minutes is about.
Thank you so much. Any questions for, thank you, Norberto. Any questions for Norberto? Any comments? Preguntas, comentarios, observaciones? Norberto will be here with us for a bit after the session is done. We're going to move to our next presentation. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. We're now going to be moving into our presentations for our Los Fellows. The Los Fellows initiative is a part of the Philadelphia Latino Arts and Film Festival. These creatives have been, their projects have been incubated and supported throughout the past couple months. So we're going to be going into our first presentation for the Los Fellows, which is by Ileana Pagan Tilobon. And she has a video to share with us to talk a little bit more about her project, and just to let everybody know, there's going to be interviews conducted in the Express Studio following the session. But without further ado, let's hear a little bit more about Ileana's project. Eliana's up in the front with us.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ileana Pagan Teitelbaum, and today I will be presenting Multilingual Memory Project and Community-Engaged Filmmaking in the Latinx Diaspora. I'll talk about my film Twin Tongues and how it led to the Multilingual Memory Project. I'll also be inviting you to participate today. I'm the director of the documentary Lenguas Gemelas, Twin Tongues, a 50-minute film about migration, identity, and language justice. The film is currently in the post-production phase of color correction and music design, and we also shot an epilogue for the film this past summer. Currently, I'm working with animation artist and graphic designer Anaís Delgado Sanchez, who is creating animations for titles and transitions in the film. As a director and participant in the documentary Twin Tongues, I explore the efforts of my own family for preserving our native language, Spanish, when our twin children entered the English education system in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm from Puerto Rico, and my husband is Peruvian. We raised our twin boy and girl as Spanish speakers. Twin Tongues documents the process of the twins entering an English-only school and our efforts to have our kids become bilingual and not lose Spanish. We also explore the changing contexts in which Spanish is a dominant language in Peru that puts indigenous languages at risk, but at the same time, it is a language of cultural and political resistance for Latinx communities in the United States. My motivation is personal. I have a family history of migration and language loss and language gain. It's also professional because I've taught Spanish to students of Hispanic heritage at the university. It's equity, breaking media stereotypes of Hispanic immigrant communities. And I also am motivated by doing research on linguistic diversity in a multimodal way that is more accessible to immigrant communities, to educators, to policymakers, and to our society at large. When I screened preliminary cuts of the film, audience members from across the world came up to me and said, "My grandparents were German and I wish I could speak it," or "My grandmother spoke Hindi and I want my children to speak it," or "My mother speaks Spanish and I never learned it and it's hard to talk with her and my family." So when I became one of the fellows of the art residency program for emerging Latinx filmmakers at the Philadelphia Latino Arts and Film Festival, together with PhillyCAM this year, I developed a community engagement project connected to linguistic justice. And that project is Proyecto de Memoria Multilingüe. The Multilingual Memory Project advocates for the right to speak non-dominant languages and explores the value of multilingualism in a globalized world. According to Taubelberg and Collins, the impact that developing linguistic competence in multiple language has on the behavioral and emotional functioning and the mental health of immigrant youth is not that well understood yet, but multilingualism is thought to have a positive impact in terms of long-term human well-being with cognitive, social, and educational benefits. However, as soon as the children of immigrants in the US begin to learn English in school, language shift or loss begins, and they are more likely to lose their first language than to become multilingual. Discrimination and stigmas associated with speaking another language or a non-standard English dialect cause children to prefer to speak the dominant community language. Multilingual Memory Project is an audiovisual, digital oral history project that films, archives, and engages with a virtual video repository of oral histories related to migration and languages in Latin America and the Latinx diaspora. MMP sets forth multimodal digital scholarship as a form of activism in the struggles for linguistic justice. The project aims to empower migrant communities to preserve their culture, identity, and languages through a video archive of stories about language loss and gain by migrants and their families. Stage 1 of MMP allows migrants and their family members in the Caribbean and the diaspora to record, share, and shape narratives to represent themselves. In Stage 2, the videos are transcribed, translated, edited, and organized by language, region, and topic. In Stage 3, the video repository will be made accessible in a searchable, multilingual digital platform. Stage 4 offers educational workshops and community engagement events with schools, universities, museums, and organizations to reclaim the value of multilingualism in our globalized world. Communities discuss the power of their culture and their languages to boost strategies for language preservation and reclamation. Multilingual Memory Project contributes to the fight for immigrant justice and strives for the cultural preservation of diasporic Latinx languages, identities, histories, and cultures. This project explores how coloniality impacts the possibilities for communication at home in local and transnational communities. MMP's video archive will display racist portrayals of Latinx communities and help give value to those who speak more than one language. This project also encourages Eurodescendant spectators to research their own migrant roots and lost languages. This digital scholarship project aims to strengthen bonds of human solidarity and generate understanding of the challenges migrant peoples may confront. I'm collaborating with several people on this project. For example, the interviews will take place during cultural and academic events in a booth designed by Puerto Rican artist Jose Ortiz Pagan, and the booth heel design is inspired in the Bronx community casitas, as well as by Puerto Rican row houses in North Philadelphia. PhillyCAM Latinx media producer, Villanova University professor of Spanish, and cinematographer and editor for Twin Tongues will film the interviews for Multilingual Memory Project. The web design by Caleb Camacho and Anais Delgado will display the video archive collection on a site similar to StoryCorps or Iowa Intersections oral history projects. I invite you to participate today in Multilingual Memory Project. Sign a release, pick a time slot, you'll get a prompt, and tell a story about your experiences with language and migration. If you'd like to know more, or if you have any questions, contact me via email, through my website, or find me on social media. Thank you.
Yeah, does anybody, I guess, have any thoughts or questions right now before we move on? For Ileana. Thank you. And I'd also like to just shout out that we have the casita at the front here. Yes. All right. Well, moving on to our next Los Fellows presentation, I'd like to invite Eric Alfredo Martinez to the front to talk a little bit about the work that he has been doing.
Hello, I'm Eric, and I'm presenting part of the process for the project I'm doing for Los Fellows. My project is an audiovisual installation of a series of animations based on many movie theaters from the history of my country, Dominican Republic. And what I'm presenting is a series of layouts from some of these animations. And the idea is using movie theaters as an excuse to see how the cities in the country have changed, also how the culture in the country has changed, and hopefully also a more poetic, in a more poetic sense, the general passing of time. And the reason why I chose to blend these two things, movie theaters and Dominican history, is because I've seen these things as so like foreign to each other. For example, in my country, well, in most Latin American countries, the cinema for a long time was from Hollywood and very North American. So for me, it's a way of mixing these two things that for a very long time I see as very, very foreign to each other. And I hope that after you can come and see, because there's text with each of these layouts that will hopefully inform the final animations. And the idea is that, yeah, it will be a multi-channel installation and with the sound design that will also inform this passage of time. And yeah, also something very interesting is that the urban point of view of this change wasn't in my in my primary thesis, and then when I started doing research and interviews, I saw how you can, through these movie theaters, you can see how the city has really changed. So by just seeing at the spaces themselves and how they've changed, it tells a lot about the urban spaces. And that's pretty much it. I hope you can come and see them up close. Thank you.
Questions for Eric? Yes.
How do you imagine the physical installation looking and sounding?
Well, pretty much like this, a series of projections, and then I imagine all the sounds playing at the same time, and so that you can experience it by moving into the space. I'm not clear in the specific arrangement. Maybe it will be in a series linearly or something more circular, but it's something I still working on.
And like large scale projections, or as big as you can make them, or are they smaller, discrete projections?
No, not necessarily as big as I can. I prefer like smaller, more personal ways of experiencing stuff. So yeah, there will be projections, but not necessarily very big scale.
Sounds great.
Hi, Eric. Thank you. Are you going to be doing the animating?
Yeah, I am.
All right. We'll talk.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
And you can learn more about our fellows on our website at PHLAFF.org. We're now going to be moving to our cultural producers in residence. So this is another program that's cultivated within PHLAFF, and I would love to invite our first cultural producer to the front, Jennifer Mota, to talk a little bit about her work.
Hi everyone, how are we? Happy Saturday. I'm a proud cultural producer over at PHLAFF. I'm also a multimedia storyteller, a public scholar, and a multidisciplinary music executive. And thanks to PHLAFF, I'm working on 2 really dope passion projects that I'm gonna walk through right now. The first one being, I'm working on a multidisciplinary audio project, which really is an album and a mini documentary that goes hand in hand. I'm revisiting different music moments of my country, the Dominican Republic too. Hey. And pretty much storytelling our journey of migration, our story here in the States. As someone that worked in media and in music and Latin, well, specifically US Latin America, right? So it's media that's projected for Latin Americans that exist here in the States. A lot of what my research entails is the racism and discrimination and linguistic discrimination that both artists and that people in media face, right? We can't speak about media in Latin America without speaking about racism, because media in Latin America, the same as in the US, is embedded in racism. So there's a lot of erasure that happens with that. A lot of my focus is in Black music and el movimiento, which is music like reggaeton, bachata, Dominican dembow. I'm known as the person that pretty much created the storyline for Dominican dembow here in the States. A lot of my work focuses on the intersections of race, gender, and sex. The first project that I'm working on is called the Puente Mixtape, and we're revisiting, again, different genres of music and different moments, from merengue clásico, bachata, merengue house from the 90s, and I am A&Ring and pairing up artists from both the islands and hip-hop artists from the States, and really creating like this transnational moment, right, of pretty much storytelling our experience, our bilingual experience, our multidimensional experience, and what that looks like for the Dominican growing up in New Jersey, in Philadelphia, or in New York. I'm teaming up, aside from PHLAFF, I'm teaming up with the Dominican Studies over at CUNY. So I have my hands on a lot of archival imaging and all that. So that's the first project. And then the second project is a mini doc that I am working on, which I'm entitling called The Sad Women's Blues. I don't know if you guys are aware or know of bachata, the genre of bachata. And bachata is such a beautiful and sensual and global genre, right? Embedded in 3 instruments, the guitar, the drums, and la guira, which is a typical percussion instrument that a lot of Caribbean genres use, and merengue, salsa, and a lot of genres, right? It was a genre that was at its time very ostracized because it was a poor people's genre. People of the rural towns of the Dominican Republic heard it, right? It was the poor man's genre. And thanks to the migration of Dominicans to New York and to other places, we were able to make this genre global because we wanted to feel close to our culture and feel close to home, right? The sad women's blues, though, really explores what the woman's experience is in bachata. As a male-dominated space, the conversation was always around the male experience in heartache and heartbreak and devastation, right? And we see very, very little women that take up space in this genre. Until in the 90s, we had a great band called Aventura, which popularized the genre even further, thanks to mixing their bicultural experience from New York, right? The storytelling wasn't around the rural town of Dominican Republic anymore. It became more about what the youth was experiencing in New York. So his storytelling, Romeo Santos' storytelling, was more like one considered close to Tupac or Biggie, right? But aside from that, what made Aventura great was the R&B riffs and the R&B influences that a lot of their songs had, and that wouldn't have happened without Judy Santos, who grew up in the 90s listening to Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, and other amazing voices of the 90s and Black women of rhythm and blues. And she was not a bachata singer. She was Dominican, but she was not a bachata singer. They invited her into the studio and they created Obsesión, which to this day is one of the most iconic bachata tracks and global tracks that exist in the genre. We focus on her story because very little credit is given to her as someone that helped innovate the genre and globalize the genre. If it wasn't for Obsesión, if it wasn't for Angelito or La Guerra, Aventura wouldn't have had that type of success that it would have had. Before Aventura, they were teenagers and their sound was much more campesinal, right? It was the genre was closer to the islander roots of the rural guitar. When Julie stepped in and working alongside Lenny and Max, they created a more, what they considered at the time urbano, like more R&B, more pop, more hip hop sounds that influenced the genre. So the sad women's blues, and I call it the sad women's blues, is because traditionally bachata is known as the blues of the Dominican Republic. And this follows Judy's story as well as the history revolving around the woman that first stepped into bachata, as well as what it looks like today and where is it heading. I did submit a video, yeah. And this is more like a side-by-side. I want you guys to kind of understand like what Aventura was in the 90s. So it's a clip of Obsesión. And I have a side-by-side of the behind the scenes with Judy Santos, which I finally got to interview a week ago. It was very beautiful. And yeah, we'll start there. Okay.
Flavor. Aventura.
Hello?
Solo escucha. Son las 5 de la mañana y yo no he dormido nada. Pensando en tu belleza, en loco voy a parar. El insomnio es mi castigo, tu amor será mi alivio. Y hasta que no seas mía, no viviré en paz. Yo conocí tu novio, pequeño y no buen mozo.
We have La Guerra, Angelito too.
Mi amor, no te imaginas cómo yo me estoy sintiendo cuando me hablan mal de ti. Si no son los vecinos, es mi padre con consejos, no podemos seguir así. El amor es lo más raro que ha podido existir. Mire bien. El amor es lo más raro que ha podido existir. Quien de ti se enamoró, lo más probable es que le pones atención y otra persona.
Thank you.
And that's Julie. So yeah, the story really explores what her experiences were and then facing Dominican media, the erasure that she had to fight against to make sure that her name was known outside of the Aventura, as well as what the women's experience is in bachata and what that looks like now, especially in a world where people are dabbling into bachata, but it's more produced and it's called Nintendo bachata, where it's like all digital, whereas she works with a band and you have to pay instrumentalists and everyone that's a part of it. So I'm excited to continue working on this project, and thank you all for being part of this journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. We have room for one question. We're coming to the end of the session. And Jennifer will be here un ratito afterwards if you want to talk after, but we want to be respectful of timeline, and it's a full day of programming for the PhillyCAM family. Any questions, comments? We're good? Good. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Our last presenter is not able to join us today, but is Wilfredo Hernandez. He is also a cultural producer in residence with PHLAFF, and we're just going to be sharing a short video of what he's been working on, which is for the Drag Arts Oral History Project. So, yeah.
My performances are full of come hither.
I think of drag as an attitude. My drag is an amalgamation of who I am, past, present, and future.
I think everybody should be given the opportunity to perform.
I think drag for me is a form of self-care.
And my family was going through so much, so sometimes it was about needing that release, and that would inspire doing an angry song on stage and just letting it out in front of everybody, because everyone else in the crowd also then had an opportunity to feel that with me.
My drag has evolved to me standing in who I am in my masculinity and trying to connect with other people with it.
Everybody is the same. It's just that we express ourselves in so many different ways.
There are a lot of grants and things that you can get as an artist, but I feel like drag artists don't feel like they can do that.
You realize that it costs money to get into costumes and makeup, and to spend 2 hours getting ready for an event.
Institutions need to give us spaces where we're able to have these dialogues, conversations, healing circles, support groups, and pay us.
If we want change, we can't be divided. We have to come together.
I would like to see we all just get together and have a big drag party and just have fun amongst each other. Not a competition or anything like that. Just perform and just root each other on and say, yeah, we're all one big community. Let's just have fun.
We're here, we're queer, we're not going anywhere, we're everywhere.
At the end of the day, I just want people to find happiness and have a better day.
I want to be at that party. I want to be at that party.
I want to be at that party too.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Just one last final reminder that submissions are open for PHLAFF, but also save the date for PHLAFF 2025. I think that's the slide before, which is May 25th to July 6th. So if you want to learn more about PHLAFF and all the things that we're about, feel free to scan the QR code or visit us.